Hello, I am Diego Uribe, an international graduate student at the International Center for Studies in Creativity. And I'm here today to share with you a very, very exciting project that I'm working on. And this is the marriage between the creative problem-solving framework and some emerging new digital technologies. And to give you a little bit more context of what is creative problem-solving, this is a conceptual framework that allows groups of people to tackle very complex and ambiguous challenges or problems and maximize creative output. So as a creative problem facilitator, I use cognitive tools that it will allow groups of people to gather data, to clarify a situation or problem, to generate large quantities of ideas or potential solutions, then to screen those that are most innovative and also that they are useful, and those that are selected, then put them into a refining process and ultimately put them into a plan of action for implementation, for the sake of innovation, of course. And so then as a facilitator of this process, of course I use technology, and what creative problem-solving facilitators and other group facilitators have traditionally used is just analog technology. And it's flip charts, and it's like Sharpie or color markers. And in creative problem solving, it's very typical that we use post-it notes. And we use these to capture ideas, so that when we're generating, let's say we're using a brainstorming technique and people are just generating ideas, they will generate the ideas on their post-its, and then we go by pasting them on the flip chart, so that they can refer back to them, and at some point when we need to analyze the data or generate, see what patterns are emerging, the post-it notes are great, because then you can in some way move them in the flip chart and start building some groups of ideas, etc. However, this technology has some constraints, and because it has some constraints, I was looking to how is it that, what might be the ways in which we can bring this project into a digital medium to overcome these constraints. And so the setup that I got here comprises of using a projector to project an image on the screen. And I'm working with an interactive workspace. It's not a smart board, but it's something similar. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Johnny Chung Lee and the Wiimote hack. And basically what Johnny Chung Lee did is he used the infrared camera that is built on the Nintendo Wii controller, and he uses that camera to track an LED infrared device that is like this little pen that I built, and there are hundreds of tutorials on the internet of how to do it. So then you can turn any wall space, any surface into an interactive workspace, such as in the way of a smartboard. So that's a little bit of the hardware that I'm using. And in terms of the software, I'm using a conceptual mapping software called Visually Understanding Environments. And this software, it's an open source software, it's an open source project developed by Tufts University. And I'm in some way adapting the software to cater to the needs of creative problem solving. So the first thing that I want to bring to your attention is with this software, it's the birth of a new medium for capturing information, which I call the little post-it node. And I'm just going to use my zoom tool here, and I'll start zooming it in. So it looks like a post-it note, but it's digital. And because it's digital, it has some advantages. Like I can tamper with its parameters in terms of size, so I can just play with that. I can play with the font. If I want, I can change the color. I have this color palette, so I want to put it into another color for whatsoever reason, I can do so. So you can start grasping how this digital medium adds some layers of information and dynamics that I don't have with the physical post-it note. Now, for you to better understand this, I have a little example here. So let me just transition to this example. And let's say that these are this is information that we have generated in our brainstorming session, okay, for tackling a certain challenge, etc. So the first thing that I want to bring to your attention with this example is in terms of how do we break the space constraints? How do we break out from the flip chart space constraint? How do we break out from the room space constraint, from the amount of wall space that we have? So I'm just going to use my little zoom tool here, and you'll realize how big, how infinite this word canvas is. So I'm just going to drag this around. Let's say this was one stage of my process. I can put it aside, and then I can refocus my whole workflow in this space. So it's really massive, and that's something very remarkable. Let me just bring it back to the other really important property of this. It's the way that I can just work with information without losing the flow of information. Let's say that this is my original set of data, and now I want to start manipulating it. So I just can duplicate it, which is something that I cannot do in the analog version. Or I can do, but it's a lot of work to do. This is just a click, so I just can select them all. I have this pop-up menu, just hit duplicate, and I will drag it to a different part. I just will drag it to a different part of the space. Let's say I want to leave it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just minimize this, separate them a little bit. I'm going to drag this. So this is the original set of data. So I might give this a different color so that it doesn't look like my original set of data when it's working in green. And then refocus my attention in this part of the workspace. So then, now I can start working with it, and I can start, now what I can do is start moving these ideas individually and making patterns out of it. Let's say I see that these three ideas to me cluster together. Let's say that this, and this one also cluster together, and that this, and this represent something else, and that these three is, so you can see how I can start adding, and I can start working with this in this canvas. But more than that, I could even go to another layer of organizing them. Let's say I just create another node here, and I will put a light color into this one. Let's say I just want to put this one, and no, it's too this. So then what I can do is just start dragging this. So then they are organized in this group. And then I can do the same with others, with the other groups that I formed. So now I have three distinct groups that mean something, and then it's easier to work, to start extracting meaning, to drive this creative process. Another constraint, another thing that I want to bring to your attention with this setup is that when I was working with the Post-its, and I'm describing my ideas in the Post-it, I have the constraint of how big can I write on this. So of course I can write as big as the Post-it will allow me to. And furthermore, if I want to use other ways of expressing ideas, such as drawing, well, I'm also constrained by the space and the space that I can draw upon. And of course, then when I paste it on the flip chart, and we're working as a group, and then I'm 10 feet away from the flip chart, I cannot read them. So I'm going to address those constraints with this medium. So the first thing about scaling. So as I showed you before, I can just scale the Post-it. And then I can just also scale the font. So let's bring 60, and then you see how it becomes. Then in terms of readability, and if we want to stop a little bit on the process and see what is it that we have generated and how we can build upon it, instead of people having to stand up and see what's on the flip chart because they cannot see from where they're sitting or from where they're located, I can just go into this presentation mode, and then let's bring up that group. So we can start having a discussion on what is it that this group means, what other ideas can stem out from this concept. And I can even go into the individual one and blow it up really big so that the whole group can see. And that's a remarkable thing. Let me just escape from here.